Hi, everybody. It's Bob Ost. It's Friday, so needless to say, this is the TRU Community Gathering. For those of you who don't know what that means out there, who are finding us in YouTube land, we are Theater Resources Unlimited. We're an arts service organization that is pretty much focused in Manhattan, in New York City. We've always been very New York centric until COVID hit, and then in 2020, in April 17th. I had to do something. I had to open something called a Zoom room. We're in a Zoom room now. So I had to learn what virtual was. Kicking and screaming, I went into the virtual world, and we invited people to come and be with us on Fridays at 4:30 at the time. Now it's 5 o'clock, and talk about theater and meet people and discuss what's going on. And at the time we started this, a lot of it had to do with making art in isolation and things that were related to quarantine. We're now long out of that, thank goodness. And we're talking about all aspects of theater and the arts, mostly theater, but we also do film. I've also had musicians here. I've had artists, people from the music world. And the purpose is just for me to have conversations. I think conversations, it's not always solutions to things, but having conversations and talking about things, I think is healthy. I am in the same world that many of us are in, which is a world that we find frustrating and we don't really understand how we got here. And I don't necessarily know how to make things change, but I do know how to make conversation about them and make people aware of what's going on. Um, this is our 299th consecutive week of doing these. Next week will be our 300th anniversary. And I'm very pleased to have a special guest who I've admired from afar and I've only just met today. But I know her work, I know of her, and I've been told about her for several years by people that know her and love her and have been influenced and inspired by the work that she does. Um, this person is Josefina López. Josefina, most people know as the writer of Real Women Have Curves, which she adapted into a play, and then the play was adapted into a musical that was on Broadway last year. Um, we're going to
I
talk
wrote
about
a
all of these
play
things.
and then I adapted it into a movie and then it was adapted into a Broadway
Play
musical.
into the movie, yes, play into the
Yeah.
movie. I don't know. I, I'm producing a benefit on Sundays, so I'm like all crazed
Yeah,
right
too many
now.
details. Yeah.
Details, details. Oh my goodness. But I want to get the details right out of respect for you because you're a pretty important voice in theater these days.
Thank you.
And the well, let me just bring you in now, and I'm going to ask you um, what happened. There you are.
All
My
right.
my tech is getting a little wonky. I hope it's not photographing wonky, but here we are. Welcome, Josefina. Glad to have you. Originally, I was introduced to you by Thelma. I don't know if you remember Thelma, but she was a woman that was involved with Casa 0101. And I wanted to have you on because I was interested in what Casa
Zero
0101,
one zero one. Yeah.
0101.
Yeah.
Say it right? Okay, 0101. I wanted
Mhm.
to talk about that a little bit because what we've been doing over the past 5 years is we've been talking to different theater companies and theater related companies and arts organizations around the country. I was trying to expand our view beyond New York. I never finished saying it. We're no longer New York centric. Now that we're on Zoom, we have people coming in from all over actually from all over the world. Um, Josefina, I have no idea why, but we have a big following in Australia.
Australia.
Go
Wow.
figure. Go figure. I don't know
I don't know. Okay. You're right.
why. So uh, let's talk about your background a little bit. What led you to be? I don't. We'll get to Real Women of Curves, but let's start with what led you to be a founder of Casa 0101.
The shortest version of that story is that
Oh,
no one.
we have an hour. Don't worry.
Okay, well, I was an actress who knew that I was only going to get to play stereotypes. And so I decided to become a writer. So then I wrote several plays and I wrote Real Women Have Curves, and no one would produce it in Los Angeles. And I got really frustrated and tired, especially when I heard racist, sexist remarks about the play and about the Latino community. And I got so fed up that I decided to start my own theater. And yeah, because no one would produce it in LA, even though it was already a hit. It had already had 19 productions, including in places where there's hardly a Latino population, and I just thought it was ridiculous that no theater in LA would do it. So I was forced to become a theater person. Like I tell people, I did not mean to be so extraordinary. I just couldn't stand, just I couldn't stand by hearing all the sexist, racist things and not do something about it.
So tell us a little bit about the mission of the company, and because you didn't just produce yourself, you've actually offered
Well,
a
we've
place
been in
for people to have their work developed.
We've been around for more than 25 years now, and we've produced over 300 plays. A majority are about the Latino experience and women's experiences and stories that other theaters don't have the guts to tell. Very proud of that because, everything that most theaters are trying to do now, we set out to do that 25 years ago, and we've succeeded. And I'm very proud of all the work we've done. And yeah, so yeah, I just wanted to be an actress, and I just knew that I didn't want to play the cleaning ladies, or the whores or the Tijuana prostitute, and I just wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to be a supporting character in a white man's story. And so I set out to create my own world, my own theater, and my own community.
Well, you had said earlier that 18 or 19 productions of the play had been seen before you even uh, were frustrated enough to open up a company
Well,
in
yeah, it
Los
was like
Angeles.
I know this play is going to be a hit because everywhere it's produced, it's a hit. And LA won't do it. Like
So
the theaters here won't do it. So yeah.
let's look a little bit at that. What is it about LA that made it resistant to the piece, and what were the places that did welcome it?
Like um when they did it at the Sarasota Theater, the Solo, which was a 500-seat theater. I mean, it's a huge theater in a mostly Republican part of Florida, with like hardly a Latino population in that particular area at that time. I was like, wait, it could be done there, but it can't be done in like the city with the most Latinos in the US. That's ridiculous. And how is it the Latinos are the majority in Los Angeles and none of these theaters which receive support from the LA County, how come they're not telling our stories? We're Latinos are the majority, but we are invisible in our own city. And what's sad about Los Angeles, and I've said this publicly, and people kind of hiss at me, but I tell the truth, and people don't like it, but that's my role as a writer, right? Is that everything theater is so well respected from the East Coast, but so a lot of people get trained in the East Coast, and then they come to the West Coast, and then they bring everybody from the East Coast because LA gets no respect because we're seen mostly as a film industry, and that most people just do theater just so they could be discovered so they could do film. So there's this attitude about like, oh no, like, we need to bring people from the East Coast because they know theater. And so I've often felt that like in order for me to make it, I would have to go to the East Coast in order to make it in LA, which is exactly the case. That for me to get produced in Los Angeles at a theater here, at a regional theater, I'd have to go make it in New York first. So yeah, there's very little respect for LA playwrights here, I feel, and especially Latino playwrights, and especially Latinos who are telling the real story of Los Angeles and the fact that we're indigenous people, and we've been rendered invisible in every which way. And I just thought it was an accident. I just thought, oh, there aren't enough Latino writers, and so I'm going to try to do that. And then you realize, no, it's on purpose that we're made invisible, and we've had to fight so hard to be visible. And LA specifically, like really, like we're right here. But like the distance between the east side and the west side is like 100 miles. I mean, it's like 100 years because the reality is that people come from the East Coast. And again, I love people from the East Coast, so it's nothing to do with that. But this attitude of like real culture comes from the East Coast, and nothing that's here originally from Los Angeles is real culture.
Well, you
You know,
basically you've identified two things. The resistance to accepting the population that is a
Mhm.
major population in LA, but you're also talking about the difference between the East Coast's theater culture versus West Coast's not being as not being as interested in theater as we
Yes.
are.
And then the other reality is that, like, and again, I don't mean to upset anyone, but this has been my experience, right? In that you kind of have to go get trained in at Yale, and then you're taken seriously as a writer, as a director, as anybody. And they talk about the Yale Mafia, and I believe it because I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I know so many people that feel so left out, and maybe because we're always on the outside going, oh, but no, it's even with all my experience and all my training all my accomplishments, I still don't get like I've been, like I wanted to teach playwriting at a university that I won't name here or, and I still can't get in because I didn't get to go to Yale, even though I've accomplished so much, even though I started my own theater, even though I'm, you know,
If I had a university, I'd hire you in a second.
I know, no, but I still, and it's ridiculous to me, right? But anyway, so there's that attitude too, that it's always about bringing people from the outside to come tell the stories about Los Angeles, instead of the people really here and us being taken seriously as real theater creators.
Okay, so how did you make the move? Okay, actually, one thing I wanted to say is one of the problems that True thinks is in our business in general is that there aren't people in positions of power who are interested enough in bringing in other voices and bringing other voices to the stage. And what we try to do to correct this, and Jane Dubin, who's in the room, will tell you
Yeah.
this as well. We're trying to develop and encourage people to take a producing um, position, to understand, to learn how to be a producer, so that they can bring the voices of their own culture to the stage. We're supporting indigenous
Voices.
artists'
Yeah.
voices, and basically we're looking for indigenous producers to come in and we're going to give them scholarships.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
we're
And that's
also
great. That's
I
wonderful.
also feel like the same thing with the Latina community. Um, People that have a cultural reason and an investment in it are going to hopefully be able to do the hard work that you're doing as an artist. So take that off your plate, hopefully at some point. So that's kind of our overview and what we're trying to do. A lot of us in this room are self-producers, and so we
You understand?
really we understand very well. We understand where.
Yeah, exactly. We just want to be
Uh,
playwrights.
so um, let's talk about the fact that you did successfully manage to bring your um, play to film. Um, we'll move to the musical later, but let's talk about the film. How did you were you already engaged in film? Did you look at film as, oh my God, since nothing's happening here in theater, I better start understanding film better? How did you make the move and gain the interest? And did you write a screenplay? I'm a playwright. I'm terrified of of writing a screenplay.
Yeah, so how it started is I wrote a play, and it got produced in San Francisco. They featured it in the newspaper, and then I got a call from a producer at Warner Brothers when I was 21, and I attempted to adapt it, but I teach screenwriting and playwriting and adaptation because now I understand, what you need to do to make something translate successfully on screen. Anyway, but back then I attempted it, I didn't succeed, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm going to go get a master's degree in screenwriting." So I did have a master's degree in screenwriting by the time my movie got produced, because I did meet a producer who saw the play and loved it and helped me adapt it. And then that's how I was able to do it. But yeah, I was already involved in film by the time it got produced, but because it took several attempts. It took like, there were three different production companies that were interested, and I even like been working on trying to get the sitcom done, maybe first, and has that hasn't happened yet. But yeah, yeah.
So,
Mm.
wow, you actually seriously looked into film, and that apparently was a great step for you in your career. Um,
Yes, yeah, I have a BA from Columbia in filmmaking and then a master's in screenwriting from UCLA. So yeah, I did take it seriously because I kind of felt like I failed the first time to adapt it, and I was like, no, I got to do this right. I got to do this right, and it took three different attempts to finally get it right.
well, the film was very successful. Um, so I mean, whoever was
Yeah,
helping
and I
you and
mean,
whatever you knew, you made something very successful happen.
yes, the credit goes to George LaVue, who's my co-screenwriter and producer. He really helped bring a different vision, because I had it a certain way because the play is so successful. And it works really well because it's in one location. But in cinema, you really have to open up the story. And so we really had to reinvent the world. And also, we had to take the protagonist who was Estella and make Anna the protagonist in the movie. So we had to shift points of view and shift story. We had to do a major reworking to make the theme work in the story.
So, what were the reasons for having to switch uh, from
So
Estella to Anna?
it, because Estella's undocumented in the play, so she's the one who has the most at stake in the movie because we didn't deal with the immigration plot line because, a lot of the play, the tension relied on like us not being able to go outside, us thinking that we're going to get raided. In a movie, you have to go outside, and as soon as you go outside, the story, the plot in the play doesn't work in cinema. So we had to change it, and so we had to basically choose Anna because Anna was going to be able to bring a point of view, like the audience was going to be able to follow Anna into the factory and discover this world. And it was kind of we had to decide that it was a coming of age story about a young woman discovering her power and her self-worth. So it was more of about Anna and how the women contributed to her, whereas the play is really about the ensemble of the women.
So you're in retrospect, you seem to be very at peace with this. At the time,
Yeah.
you as an artist, what was the process like finding that your play was having to be changed and adjusted for screen? Um,
What I've learned is that when your message is so powerful, it can work in many platforms and multi-platforms. So, women are powerful. That's the message. So that can work in any medium, any platform. So that I really had to focus on that and not be stuck on the particulars. But there were moments that I said, okay, we have to have an undressing scene because that is so important to the story. So there were things that were different from the movie and the play, but the essential story was there about a woman's worth and the fact that when women work together, we are powerful. So that can be translated into so many different. So that's how come I know it can work. So yeah, sometimes you have to kill your darlings and go, oh, I love this moment, but it doesn't work in cinema, so I have to give it up. So yeah, that's why it took several rewrites.
well, kudos to you for being able to get that. You're saying it like it's not hard. It's very hard.
Very hard. Yeah.
It's
What
very
we
hard to see a work that you've spent your lifeblood pouring your sweat into. And
The other thing about being a playwright is that we love dialogue.
oh
And we
yes.
communicate all our story through dialogue. I mean, we're like 80% dialogue, 20% action, whereas cinema is more like 80% screen action and 20% dialogue, or a little bit more, depending, what genre it is. But so you have to really communicate through visual images and give up those funny, witty lines that you don't want to sacrifice because they really work. But so sometimes you have to say, okay, we can communicate that through imagery, through metaphor and the way we shoot something, so we don't need to say those things. So yeah, so it's about cutting back the dialogue.
So how much of that dialogue went back into the musical?
Well, I'd have to ask Lisa, but there is a lot of like I would say the best lines, the really incredible zingers, a lot of beautiful things that are in the play made it to the musical. Lisa did the adaptation. And so, she brought it, she wanted to bring as much of the play and the movie. It was like a marriage of the two into the musical, and then they had to reinvent new things, new mythology here and there, and then bring in a couple new characters in order to make the musical work, so that it's a big ensemble and there's just dance numbers, So I thought, I love the adaptation of the musical.
Okay, well, let me ask you, this is a little on the tough side, but um, were there any compromises that were made to make it more accessible, or how? Well, my assumption is that your original piece had absolute authenticity. It's you. I can't imagine you not being authentic. Um,
Yeah.
what had to, did anything have to change? Did people have to adapt anything? Did you have to compromise at all?
I don't feel like compromised as much as we had to decide that it had to be as accessible as possible without being whitewashed. So it was a fine line between how do we keep it as authentic as possible, but be as inclusive as possible so that people who are not from this culture can feel included, but not whitewash it enough where we have to pacify it to make white people feel comfortable. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like a real,
Does that happen in our world?
it's like, oh, you don't want to offend white people because then they'll deport you or send you to El Salvador, Alligator Alcatraz. So,
Tara Moses is an indigenous artist. Made me aware of the work of the what is it called? Not white
whitewashing,
privilege.
whitewash,
Whites.
oh,
No. What's the word? Where
fertility, white fertility.
fragility, white fragility. That's it. So let's talk about white fragility for a second, because I think people have to really understand that it really is there. It's a thing,
It
and
is.
it's actually dominating our country right now.
So, I tell people, you get offended, I get oppressed. So look at that, right? It's like, yeah, where's the line between you going, oh, I'm offended because I go, well, you know what? I'm being killed. I don't know who has it worse. I do. Okay. So, your humanity is being inconvenienced, mine is being erased. So that's where you have to go, oh, I get it. This may be uncomfortable, but I have to figure out that the world I'm creating to keep me comfortable is killing people. Maybe I should do something about that. And again, normally I'm very sarcastic, but normally I'm a little bit more, uh, just because, it's hard to live in a world where like every freaking decade they try to get rid of Mexicans. And, people go, "Oh my God, your play is
Well,
so," people
let's
think I'm
let's
like, which
let's
I
be
am.
honestly
Yeah.
broader about it. They try to get rid of anyone that's not white.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's
And so, yeah, but here's the thing is they've been trying to get rid of indigenous people, which Mexicans are indigenous people, for like since they took this country, right? It's so for me, like, people say, "Oh my God, your play is like it took place in the 80s, but it's like it could have happened today. You're so futuristic. Like, how did you know?" I said, "No, it's because it happens every freaking decade. Every freaking decade they tell us, "Oh, it's the decade of the Latinos, finally opportunities." And then it's like, "Oh no, new bill, new program, new way, get us out of here." And it's just like, oh, it's because Latinos are procreating, because Latinos value family, and the census are telling you, oh, wow, Latinos are going to be the majority because it's inevitable. And that scares the hell out of people, right? So I mean, I'm a little more sarcastic than usual today. Just
that's okay. That's okay. Welcome. Welcome. I mean, I'm trying to be minimally political because
oh,
I've
you're
got
great. You're
I'm
awesome.
like
You're awesome. Thank you for
seriously,
I'm glad that I'm glad you can be with the discomfort. A lot of people can't. Like they can't. They're like,
oh
I'm like,
no. I just as a writer, I guess I just distance myself from it. I I've worked my way through as much awareness as I can of white privilege. And then Tara lays white fragility on me, and I'm going, "Oh God, I've got to learn this again now." And you know, it's real. It's just the way things are. And then I watch our country devolve into just
yeah,
a melting pot of white fragility. Remember when it was a melting pot?
yeah, no, and it's so funny because they accuse, you know, us of being woke, right? Oh my God, you're
Oh,
like too
that's right. I'm woke.
delicate,
I
too
forgot.
delicate, you're what? It's like, no, you're the one who's too fragile. You're the one who can't handle us seeing us as human beings, just real people.
Well, I mean, one of the most outrageous things was when I've heard white politicians talk about how much they suffered from slavery or something like that, or how it's like my black friends is this wanted to scream. It's like, what? You
Yeah.
know, slavery was our problem.
Yeah.
You did this to us. I'm
Yeah.
sorry that it makes you uncomfortable.
Oh, you don't want to talk about it because it makes you feel, yeah, exactly. It's like, oh my God, my fist hurts because you ran into it. It's like,
Yes, that's perfect. My fist hurts because you ran into it. I love that.
yes, I was kind of like, yeah, like, why, no, yeah. Uh,
So, okay,
okay.
so let's dig ourselves out of this for a second. So what I'm really interested in is you as an artist. We're already talking about you as an artist navigating a business that is not as culturally inclusive as we would like to think it is. Um, let's move to the musical. When you're going to commercial Broadway, my assumption is you have because it's so expensive as well, but you have a particular awareness or discomfort about having to um, make millions of dollars back and attract millions and millions of people. So I can't help but think there may have been some compromises that were made um, because you were
Yes, there were compromises, meaning there are considerations, but I don't.
considerations. That's good.
Well, let's look at considerate because I don't feel it was compromises in terms of like, oh my God, I feel violated. Like they took the story and they ripped it. No, because I gave my approval for it to be adapted, but I was under the understanding that I would be there to make sure it could be as authentic as possible. So it's again, it's a fine line between like, how do we make this show as accessible and appealing and universal without watering it down and taking the message out? So it was a really delicate balance. I have to tell you that there were some times when we lost a joke here and there, and it'd be like, okay, but and it was like, okay, so there were little minor things that did have to change, but the heart of the story was there because I was there making sure that it was there. And there were a couple things, for instance, and again, because the show is going to tour, I can't say too much, so I can tell you as much as I can. I mean, for me, most of it was a very beautiful process. It was very empowering. So I'm mostly happy with everything and how it turned out. But there were moments, where there were like like a plot point, for instance, that had we gone that way, it probably would have been just slightly more commercial. But I felt that that would have contradicted the theme of the story. For instance, um, there was a moment where they wanted to make the boyfriend a lot more important than he really was in the story, and I just felt like making him more important by her making a decision based on their relationship, that took away her power and that took away from the theme of story. And I felt like I had to say something, and they did, and they said, okay, you're right, it makes sense, and so I felt like I spoke up whenever I felt there was something that contradicted the theme. But for other little things that I thought, well, it could be done this way, it could be done that way. It doesn't take away from the story. It doesn't make it inauthentic. It's just, I think this joke is funnier, but hey, maybe some white people are not going to get it. So how can we sell that joke in a way that everybody gets it? So there were moments like that. But again, that was minor.
Well, let me ask you
Obviously,
something.
I wasn't there day to day, so I know Lisa might have a different experience, and I don't know how much she would say. But
Wish I had her on with you. Actually, I would love to. You know what? I'd love to have you on with. Do you know Jose Huerta?
Jose who?
Jorge. I mean Jorge Huerta.
Oh
Jorge
no,
Huerta. Yeah,
my professor, my pal, yeah, my
yeah.
deal.
I would
Your
love
whole,
to have the two of you on. I would
yeah,
love
yeah,
to have a
great.
conversation with the two
Yeah.
of you. Um, my, I guess I want to go back a little bit to since we're a producing organization, we're about theater, we're about the business. Uh, were you approached by more than one person who wanted to adapt your movie into a musical?
Um, no, actually, at the very beginning, nobody did. We had to approach all the producers. And we even like it was very beautiful the way this came about, like the final production, because there were other producers that were involved, but we always approached them. We had to kind of give them the idea that this was possible. When I saw that Sergio Trujillo won a Tony for Best Choreography, and he talked about being an immigrant when he accepted his Tony, I knew that he could be the director and that Real Women Have Curves would be in very, very good hands with him. And so we approached him, but they were already reading the play. They were already thinking about it. And so we kind of met at the middle, kind of like found each other. So
Wow.
that was, like a lot of things that you like again, the sitcom version. I've been trying to sell the Real Women Have Curves as a sitcom. And we've had many attempts and many times where we've come close. And I know that it takes at least three times, at the very least three times. Don't give up, right? And then when it is supposed to happen, it just flows. So I've had to learn patience, and I realize that yeah, sometimes you can't force things because the right people at the right time will come together.
Interesting. This is a great this is great for the people in my room to hear because we're always constantly telling people about pitching and how to pitch and how to find themselves a producer. We are also big on while you're trying to find a producer, consider producing yourself so that you can get your work up and seen, and you can be
Yeah.
developing a brand a little bit.
I always tell actors, become writers. I always tell writers, become producers. I always say, you know what? Don't see yourself as small, be bigger than that. If you think the problem is this, be bigger. Learn those skills. Be bigger and bigger. And now I'm at the point now where I go, wow, do I really want to be raising like $25 million to do a show on Broadway? Because that's what it would take. And part of me is like, no, because the audience that I want to see is not necessarily there on Broadway. The audience, the people that I want to see my shows, they come to my theater. So I'm pretty happy. I would love to do bigger productions, but and maybe raise more money to do it at bigger theaters, but not, yeah. So for me, I always tell people, become a producer. If you want
But
your dream to
you
produce
did
them.
say that the show is scheduling a tour, so it is.
Yeah, they've been working on a tour, and I was told one thing. I don't know. I can't say too much about it because I've been hearing contradictory information that I can't officially talk about. But no, the last I heard on the very last day, Barry Wessler said that they definitely want a tour. They definitely know they should have gotten Tony's. They definitely want to do a revival. They definitely want to go on tour. And there's many theaters, including Los Angeles, that wants to do it. So there's several theaters here in LA that now want to do the musical. And there's several theaters all over the country, but they're also but like people are afraid to go to the theater because they could get deported. They're not there. It's the right time to tell the story, but financially the wrong time to do it. So it's kind of, very tricky right now.
I wish I had the specific reference point for you, but I know that I've read several times where people have said that your show is possibly the best musical of the season. I read it. I read it a couple times that people felt that very
I
strongly.
mean, I thought so. I've been watching Broadway plays. I'm from Los Angeles, but every year I'd go see like at least seven Broadway shows, the best one. I've never seen two standing ovations in one show consistently through the whole run. I've never seen people go, oh my God, I learned so much about gender, class,
Uh,
race, body, comedy, dancing. Oh my God, I've never seen anything about women like nothing. So to me, I could die and be like, you know what? The people who saw it, the people who, it was so wonderful for me. I was there just about every night. They'd come out of the theater going, oh my God, that was so incredible. Like, oh, like people be like, my life's changed. Like, and people would cry. I mean, the kinds of responses. I remember when I saw Rent, I was so inspired by Rent, and I always thought, God, I want to do something, a musical that makes people go, wow, like my life will never be the same. Anyway, so many people. I had white people going, oh my God, I didn't know. Oh my God, oh, crying, people confessing like how some people didn't like immigrants and now they get it. So I've never seen that anywhere else. I've never seen people go, wow, like, and to me, I was like, how the hell did we lose out to two shows about corpses? How does a show this inspiring lose out to being best book for like corpses and to women trying to kill each other and being vain and then two robots in love? How the hell did we lose out to that?
I'll support the Robots in Love. I love that show. But I'll take your point. I Yeah, just so you know, I know two people in the room saw the show and loved it, and Michael DeCatano was at your final performance, so he was at a historical moment. Um,
Yeah, historical and his.
um,
I was like five standing ovations. And I was like, you know what? Everyone who was there was a love fest. I was so happy. I filmed it. I was like, you know what? I could die now. I'm satisfied. The people who needed to see the story are here, you know. There was a woman who saw it 15 times and she was Filipina. And I was like, but this is, she goes, it's our stories, our story. She goes, you know what? This is cheaper than therapy. Every time I come to your show, I feel so good about my life. I feel so good about myself. I realize I'm not the problem. And I was like, girl, that's a great quote.
yeah,
Cheaper than therapy.
let's go back a little bit to the process. Let me actually ask Ashling and Owen, do we have any questions in the room?
No
No.
questions, lots and lots of, people saying how much they loved it and how much they're enjoying this talk, but
I
no
can't wait
questions.
for the tour so more people could see it because I'm so proud of it.
Let's go back to the process again because you were not okay. How did it happen that you didn't wind up actually being given credit for writing the book of the musical? Why
Well,
was that
look,
given over to someone else?
all right. I'm going to go there as much as I can go there, okay?
Okay.
Without disparaging anyone or saying anything that's going to get me in trouble because, again, it's a delicate balance, between. Um, I was under the understanding at the very beginning, because it was Sergio's intention to just use the play and put music to the play and keep to the play as much as possible. So that was my understanding. And that I was going to be the original playwright who, was going to get book writer. So, and again, COVID happened. So COVID kind of screwed up a lot of things. So let's blame COVID for
You
it.
think? You think?
No, no, let's, then, before I knew it, I get an email from my agent saying that Lisa Loomer wants to talk to me about the adaptation. And I'm like, why does Lisa Loomer want to talk to me about adapting it? Like, and then I find out that they've hired her. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, okay. So part of me is going, and I have to tell you that I had already attempted to adapt it with several other producers. And I had done about at least 10 versions of Real Women Have Curves, the musical. Like I had done
Wow.
that at some point you're like, I am a creative genius. I do give myself credit, but fucking A, excuse me. I don't know if I don't know.
It's
After
okay.
10 like rewrites and like yeah, like my brain was dry. It was like, what else can I give? Like this like so and again, that's another process with other producers where I was just like, I think I'm done. I was disappointed, but on the other hand, I was like, you know what? Maybe we do need someone else who can bring fresh eyes. And here's the other reality is the producers had already worked with Lisa Loomer on adapting like Water for Chocolate as a Broadway musical, and she had done that. So they felt that, they already had a working relationship, that she had a lot more experience, and of course she has a bigger name. So part of me was like, you know what, that might be a good idea because sometimes fresh eyes will bring a new way of seeing it. And obviously, it's my story, it's my life, I'm the expert at it. So it's going to be great because I'm going to make sure that it's authentic. And then Lisa is a friend. I've known her for many years, and she also worked in this community in Boyle Heights before she moved to up north. And so she knows Boyle Heights and this community and is incredibly aware. So I feel like if anybody could adapt it, it would be her. So then we talked for about 4 hours and basically told her everything. And so she really took a lot of my life too. And then she was able to step back because, it was my story working in a factory. Not everything is absolutely accurate in the play, but a lot of it is my life story. And so she was able to step back and say, oh, we could talk about the refugees in the 1980s with the Salvadorian, the Central American refugees, Salvadorian, Guatemalan, Nicaraguan, and we can bring in characters and add them into the musical, which will expand the world and da da da. So she was able to do and see outside of what I was able to see. So I was happy about that.
Well, there's also just to be honest for everybody, there are differences in writing a libretto to writing a play. They're somewhat different. And
And here's the thing, even Lisa had challenges in doing that
yeah,
because even the producers felt that they needed to bring in another writer who was a lyricist and musician and a playwright. So someone with even more experience was needed, or she came in later. So yeah, it is very challenging. I mean, for me, I am grateful because it was a learning experience. Because watching this process and seeing what they did and the many versions of it and the many workshops, I got an education as to how you can adapt the difference between a play and a book. And the major one that I tell people, this is the $1 million, is that you have, in the same way that in a movie you have a montage where you have all these images that speed up time, you have to do that in a musical where you have to incorporate story, it's time, speed, dance. And so you need this musical montages throughout that usually playwrights don't think about. Usually playwrights are always like, okay, a song could come in here. Instead of like, no, it has to be that you bring all these elements together and it has to move. And so you do need someone who has like music experience, who is a lyricist. You do need all these other skills that I didn't have at the time that I'm grateful that now I've learned.
well, you were very clear about the difference between writing play and writing a screenplay, about moving something from stage to film. This
I think so because
there's also a
it's,
process in moving something from play into musical. I mean,
yes,
each
exactly.
art form has its own
And I think
requirements.
I'm very lucky because the play was such a hit. And I also got to perform in it. And I know how good it is and how why it works so well that I was confident enough to say, all right, let me not put my ego in the way and say, all right, I need help adapting it. And sometimes, the biggest lesson as an artist is to say, I can't do this alone. And you know what? I need more people who are better prepared to do this. And you have to kind of put your ego to the side and know that what you bring without getting in the way. Because what happens many times, and I work with people because I teach people how to adapt plays into screenplays and screenplays into plays. And I also write novels. So I can take novels and poems and I can adapt anything. Uh, Now I can just about adapt anything, right? And so part of it is don't get in your way. Do not get attached to your darlings, look at really the story and the message, and then look at what can work in this and understand what each medium can do. Because when people are very attached, no, it has to be this way, I go, well, that's not going to work in cinema. Because in cinema, that's just boring. It just, the camera eats up everything. And dialogue, there's just, you need to understand the different mediums. And if you could do that, you can jump and put your story in every kind of platform. And then that's how you can have a global hit.
Okay. Your screen had frozen, but I heard you. So,
Oh shoot, I was too passionate here.
oh yeah, so the screen was like, oh
I
no,
noticed
excuse
that when I
me.
get really passionate, the screen goes, "Oh, girl, that's too much." Like,
So what I was going to jump in and say, this is some part of advice that I always give to my fellow writers. Um, when people give you a criticism or critique or ask for a change, um, don't go with your first impulse. There's a a very handy phrase, which is, I'll think about it. So I always teach people to say, I'll think about it, because in the moment we are so defensive of our work that sometimes we're just closed to the other ideas that people might have. And in many cases, we'll miss really valuable information that might improve the work. So if you're going to say no the day after. Don't say in the moment.
very good advice. I always tell people, be with it. Don't react, just be with it. Obviously, if someone says, "Oh, can you just, like something really sexist, like, can we just make them all men, instead of women?" And something ridiculous like that, then I'll be like, "Hell no, get the fuck away from me." You can get the story. I think it's fair to sometimes, when it's obvious, blatant stupidity. But when people say something and you go, okay, I see. All right, I hadn't thought of that. That's a new idea. I mean, obviously, if it's a producer and a director, you have to go, okay, I see. I see. So that, but here's the thing, when someone gives you an idea and it instantly inspires you to do a rewrite, to want to do a rewriting. Like when I work with producers that give me great ideas. I cannot wait to do a rewrite. When I've been given information or ideas that I know do not work, my gut is like that. It's so freaking hard to do a rewrite. And that's also how you know that's not a good idea.
Owen, well, I see a couple of questions now. Um,
Yeah,
are,
first question's from RK Green. How can the theater community make developing new work more open and accessible?
Well, well, there's just so many ways, right? Like the way I did it, I always start with like who's being left out of the theater, right? How do we invite people who are being left out? And obviously, like people who don't speak English are being left out. The deaf community is being left out. Everybody, who's not at the center of the storytelling is being left out, right? So one of the ways that I've done it is I offer playwriting classes, right? Because as soon as you open it up to everyone and invite everyone to tell their story, all of a sudden you get incredible stories that you go, wow. Like, at our theater, we did the first American sign language, English and Spanish play ever done, probably in the country or the world. Um, and it made history and it taught us a new way of like who's being left out and how do we include people, right? Obviously, like funding, right? It comes down to even if it's like, oh, let's give grants to playwrights, so that they can commission new works, right? But it can't just be that we give people money and they write new work and then we never consider them for production, right? Because that a lot of the big theaters do that and we just feel used. We just feel like, oh, great, now you can put it on your report. You hired a bunch of Mexicans. Great, thank you. But you had no intention of ever producing our plays, right? Um, let's see. I started a program called Chicanas, Cholas, and Chisme, which was about like teaching women how to women, but mostly Latinas, because that's the population we serve, how to write, direct, and produce, right? And we did this over 10 years, and as a result of that, we nurtured over 50 Latina playwrights. Now we have about at least 10 Latina directors that came out of that, and a lot of these women, there are at least 30 women know how to produce theater. So for us, it's always about like a year program where we do a festival of plays and we teach them how to write, direct, and produce, and through a whole year. And then after doing 100 productions, you get a bunch of women that are like, let's start our own theaters. And
this is a clarification that I'd hope to get. So yes, I was going to ask you more about Casa 10101. And so what's really interesting and what's unique about it is that it's not just you open your doors and say, submit your plays and we'll consider them and we'll put them on. You actually have people coming in and you're teaching them all the aspects of producing as well
yeah.
as
Well, here's the thing. We usually don't take open submissions. It really
ah,
has to be stories that come from the community that originate from our playwriting classes, or they come from people who have been working in the Latino theater communities. It really has to be people who understand that we are speaking to the Latino community, in Boyle Heights, especially, and a working class community. So a lot of, that's a comment not open because a lot of people may have a great play, but I go, but yeah, we won't. We've had like Nilo Cruz is a wonderful playwright. He did a beautiful play about Lorca, and it was a really great production, but hardly anyone came because not enough Latinos knew Lorca, not enough people knew, and so you really have in our theater, we really have to nurture our audiences so that the kinds of plays, because you may have a great play, but it may not be right for our audience. So that's very important to us.
I'm glad you referenced Nilo Cruz because one of the things about Nilo that is so interesting is that I think he was one of the very first, if not the first, Latina uh,
We got a
writer
Pulitzer?
to get a Pulitzer and to actually have a production on Anna in the Tropics. I mean, basically, uh,
Yes. I
we
so I actually knew
everybody thought the doors had opened, but there haven't been as much. Uh,
So what sucks about this is
yeah,
that Milo got a Pulitzer Prize and the playwriting workshops at the Mark Taper Forum, got canceled because Michael Ritchie was like, oh, if Latinos can get a Pulitzer, that means, the doors are wide open and anybody can get. And he canceled all the programs, diversity programs for Latinos and so that's it. And I go, that's not the measurement for like
Did
how.
he have a better excuse than that? Or
No, I mean
he
that's
just
how
did
lame
it.
that was. That's how come he stepped down. That's how come he was one of the artistic directors that says, I can't lead us into the future because yeah, he's stuck in the past because
Ew.
he shouldn't have been there in the first place. But anyway,
That's a real
I have
ew.
opinions about this.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
So basically, one of the things overviews that I've tried to keep over the past 5 years of doing it, 6 years of doing these is how welcoming theater is to the non-white artists, and we've talked about. I've had conversations about Indigenous artists. I've had Latina conversations before. Um, we've talked about the BIPOC. One of the things that seems so if you look at the total number of shows that are done on Broadway, and you consider how many of them are not about white stories,
Hmm.
we really aren't there yet.
No.
Um,
It was like, yeah, I thought we were. I really thought that Real Women Have Curves opening on Broadway was and then I realized, oh no, we're not. No, we're not. I'll come back another 10, 20 years when maybe this country has imploded and has rebuilt itself or maybe people go, oh my God, that was too much. Let's really do something about that. But it is a rich person's game, right? I went to the Tonys and here in LA we have the Oscars. And people like that's the big deal. And it's almost like the Tonys are like, oh my God, we got invited to the palace to go see the king. And it really is about rich people like throwing money so they could get invited to the party. And I really felt like this isn't really about the artistry. It's about like what shows can we get on that people in Iowa with their family can go see. But it's really not about like how do we tell stories that represent the United States because they don't. It's really about like what stories are the least offensive stories that can entertain the most people without them feeling uncomfortable? That's really what I felt. That was my experience this past season when my show was on Broadway.
we the industry had we had a great loss. Woody King died over the weekend, and I knew Woody, and I remember Woody was talking about how frustrating he found commercial theater to be because he he thought that that black writers who are aiming for commercial productions were losing their authentic voices, and he was very big on authenticity. We're talking about conversations we were having 25 years ago. Um, so I I think that commercial Broadway, though everybody's aspiring to make it a little bit more inclusive, it may not be the place where this is going to be solved. I think it needs to be solved in companies around the country and in smaller
Yeah.
countries
Right.
and countries dedicated to the voices of people of their own culture. And yet we still have to find a way of getting other people to listen to those voices. Um, I'm saying this in the middle of a country that has so not become a melting pot.
Mhm.
Um, but at some point, I hope we return to the mission of having freedom and justice for all, equality for all, and maybe theater for all. Maybe having us all go to see shows that are not necessarily about our experience, but about other people's experiences. Um,
Well, I mean, the other sad reality is that, for two, $300 or $500, do I want to go see a play that's going to make me feel depressed and upset and horrified, or uncomfortable, or do I want to just go have a good time? So unfortunately, Broadway is about like, oh, let's just go have a good time. I mean, I did enjoy maybe Happy Ending because I go, oh, that's the least offensive play that makes you feel good, you know? And $300. Oh, I feel good, cheaper than therapy, right? No, but so
no,
but yeah,
no,
I think nobody
one of
wants
the
to spend
problems is
$300 to go feel depressed. So
one
that's
of
the
the
other.
problems is $300 I'm going to stand at the end. That's why everything on Broadway gets standing ovations because people said, I spent the money. This is part of the experience. And I sit
Exactly.
there at a lot of shows. I'm going, I don't really, I mean, I loved it, but I don't want to stand.
mean, Shakespeare for $1,000, really? Like anyway. Yeah, so my community doesn't feel like there's a place for us there yet. I don't like. Yeah, I mean, I had to drag people to come, and most people didn't have money. I had to pay for people's tickets to come, so to come see my show because no one could afford. None of my friends could afford it.
Well,
Or they came, like, I won big time to go to Broadway because you're on Broadway.
Broadway keeps murmuring. It's like murmuring that something's going to happen. And then, like, when we're just coming out of shutdown, we are going into live theater again. One of the big stories was, I think, was seven BIPOC plays with BIPOC productions and BIPOC writers were opening on Broadway. Isn't this a miracle? Yes, it was a miracle. But has it stuck? I don't know. Has it really made a difference yet? I'm not sure. Um,
Well, I thought that I'd have a career after this, that I'd have people interested in commissioning me to write plays.
I'm interested. I just don't have the money.
Yeah, and no, but nobody has. It did not do anything for my career. I'm the one who had to go beg people and say, "Hey, I was on Broadway, like hello." Still, not even theaters in LA. Like one theater I had to go because I built a relationship with them.
If it matters
But,
at all, I want you to know how privileged I feel that you actually said yes and came on the show. I'm very
no,
honored to have you.
I'm willing to talk to anyone who wants to listen.
Okay. Um, oh, and any more? I think there's more, a few more comments or questions.
Yeah, we had a question from Marilyn Anderson asking if the play was closer to the musical or the film.
It's closer to the play. But there is the boyfriend plot line, and then that's in the film. And then there's a bunch of a new story where Anna's a journalist, a young reporter at the local community newspaper. So there's a bunch of new things. So, but I would say it's closer to the play because it does take place mostly in the factory. I mean, it does have a lot of locations, but the factory is so important. Um, in a way that's musical. Like in the play itself is also very musical, but the music accentuates what's already in the play.
Okay, does that answer? Okay. Anyone else? Anything else that we have in here?
No, just a lot of people expressing how much they're enjoying this.
So, to the room, if you want to raise a virtual hand and actually ask something before we wind up, I'm happy to take questions or even comments. Damaris, you're here. Damaris Isalis, how are you? Um, Helmut, unmute yourself and you can ask a question. Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was, I met the guy that wrote the music for you know,
Nonetheless,
yeah. And then I was hoping I was hoping that your musical would find its audience, you
me
know.
too.
We were all hoping.
You're like, yeah.
And so, because of all the funding and all the effort and all the work and all the history, and it really shocks me because I don't really understand, how such a great thing couldn't quote unquote find its audience. And I was just wondering if you
There
could
was
elaborate.
there was some commentary by let's see, what can I say? I'm going to walk a fine line here, okay? I do think that some people felt that the marketing was off because here's the thing. When and this has happened to me many times where the marketing is off because they've never done anything like this before. So even though you have a PR firm that's a specialist in this, some people felt that they didn't necessarily know how to market to the Latino community because they didn't really there is no formula yet. So some people felt like they weren't sure that it was marketed well enough to then attract the right audience. I do think that they were trying to go for like this American dream story that could appeal to as many people. But I do think that for some people, if they felt like it was just about fat women, right? So some people said, "Oh, I thought it was just about fat women. I didn't realize it was about immigrants, about their class, blah 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 blah." So I was like, okay, so that could be one of the factors. I know. some of the actresses felt that it wasn't marketed well. That was, that, and it could be that they were just upset that it was closing early and they couldn't understand why because they were getting standing ovations every night. And
Mm.
so that could be one of the factors that we don't know. And other people could say, look, some people just hate women, putting women at the forefront and dealing with women, because it was mostly women that came that, they dragged their boyfriends and a lot of gay men came, but I guess not enough men came. I don't know. I mean, there's also, I've had to ask myself, like, how did it not? We had so many great things, when people would see it, they'd be like, wow, this is hilarious and beautiful and profound. So yeah, I think maybe the marketing.
Well,
Yeah.
it's basically it's a Broadway problem. It costs so much, and
Marketing
um,
is super expensive, right? I mean, it's like
and marketing is one of the three. Well, marketing and venue are the two biggest costs in Broadway. Um,
Mhm.
it is so ridiculously expensive to produce a show. Um, the other thing that everybody really has to remember is it's not just the budget for the show to bring it to into its first performance, but it's the weekly operating costs as well, and it's very difficult. I had Beowulf bought it on my show 2 years ago, talking about how much materials had increased. He's a Tony-winning set designer. For those of you who don't know, he was talking about since COVID and since shutdown and since we reopened for live theater, his expenses just for his the wood and everything went up 60%. So everything was already too expensive before COVID, and now apparently it's 40 to 60% more expensive post COVID, which means that your weekly running costs also are going to be affected, which means everything's being affected. So it's just really hard to make it on Broadway,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
isn't much different than it used to be, but it's definitely still the problem. Um,
Mm. Just can
I
I follow
think I
up?
think that I think that one of the things that producers are wise enough to do is plan for additional streams of revenue, like subsidiary rights and tours and things like that. Hopefully, some money will be made on the tour, Josefina. I hope that actually happens. And who was just saying that wanted this? Was Helmet? Was that you?
Yeah. Oh, you'll probably, first of all, you know, your show will probably do really well in schools and all those kinds of venues, high schools and colleges. But what
Yeah,
I would, mm,
I feel really like when I found out about it, yes, I was disappointed, but I said, you know what? Now it's really going to get to my community. Now it's really going to be done at places where Latinos can go. And now there's going to be an 18-year-old girl in her high school who's going to get to play Anna, who's not going to have to go through what I went through where, you know, there was nothing for me, so for me, I'm happy that is the place where it's going to have a life beyond Broadway. But I do hope that there is a time when it can go back to Broadway and then become the hit that it was meant to be.
And that has
but
happened with shows, so that is actually feasible. I'm
Mhm.
going to call in Gina just as her husband is coming into the room. Joel's here now, Gina, just in case you didn't know.
Oh, I
Uh,
didn't know that. I didn't see him.
he just came in
Thank you,
because
Josefina.
he knew you were about to ask a question.
Oh, no, no, I'm actually not going to ask a question. I just want to say thank you, Josefina, for being here. God bless you for speaking the truth because it is so exhausting being thought of as the other and as an outsider and not as an American. I mean, we just because we are of Mexican heritage, that doesn't mean we're not also American. And it's so odd that a good part of the United States it was part of Mexico. The whole Southwest was Mexico at one time. And so I really, really
So
thank
you
you
want to
for.
know something fascinating? I don't know if people know this, but because you talk about indigenous cultures, is that, Mexico was started by a group of indigenous people that they now believe are the Navajo that went down from the Navajo Nation
Oh, okay.
to Mexico City because they were following and they had this thing where they had to go follow and that there would be an eagle that would land.
Mm-hmm.
They saw that image. So a lot of us are actually Navajo. Mexicans are like
Mm-hmm.
indigenous people that went on this trek south. So actually the Four Corners, that area is really where Mexicans come from.
Mm-hmm.
So now you go, oh, really? Like we don't belong here? Like we were here before, you know?
Yes, it's fascinating. That's fascinating. I didn't know that, but thank
Yeah.
you.
Because there's this thing called Aztlan, which for a lot
Yes.
of Chicanos, like Mexican
Mm-hmm.
Americans on their indigenous side, we thought it was a fictional place. And it's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
Aztlan is actually close to the Four Corners in the Navajo Nation. That's what they found out. And the Navajo recognizes the Mexican as part of their tribe, the Dine,
Mm-hmm.
as they call themselves, that the Mexicans are part of their tribe. So
Oh,
interesting, isn't it?
thank you. That's really interesting. Thank you.
So I think we're going to wind up now, unless somebody has something pressing to say. I want to say something pressing. I want to say that I'm very, very grateful for you for coming on today. I enjoyed talking with you, and thank you for being a guest. I hope you'll come back. I really do mean it. I want to bring you and Jorge. I can't imagine the two of you having a conversation that would be
Oh yeah. No, we're great.
anything but amazing. So thanks to everybody in the room. Thanks to everybody who's here today. The TRU community. Still 299 weeks later, I'm still amazed that so many of you come in and are part of this every Friday. Um, and I'm going to say a few words to YouTube now and thank them for being here. So I'll be right back. Let's see, where are you?
Bye, everybody. I'm gonna take off to rehearsal.
Oh, you're going to take off? Okay, so thank you very much.
Or did you want me to hang
Josefina.
out? Because if
Well,
not,
as
then
only if the people in the room I want to have a little conversation
oh,
with
if
you,
they have other questions, yeah, no. Because if
just
you're
in
gonna
case.
continue with your show, then I've got so much to do because I have a show opening on Tuesday. And yeah, I'm going to
Oh, I'm
rehearse.
going to just thank my YouTube audience, guys. If you're out there and you're finding us and randomly finding us, thank you for being random and finding us. Um, we hope that you'll come back. If you want to be invited to the Zoom meetings and be in the room and be part of the conversations and ask questions, just email me at trunltd@aol.com. That's trunltd@aol.com, and we'll invite you every week. Hope that you'll be back with us next week and in the weeks to come. Um, we've been doing this as a community service since April 17th, 2020, because of COVID, because our communities were suffering and needed someplace to come and be together and feel like a community. So this has always been free. It can still be free. We also do have the option, if you're so inclined, of paying a minimum $12 to come and be part of this so that we have a little income. And if you want to be a true member, that's $95 for a year. Go to our website, truonline.org, truonline.org, um, and maybe join as a member or give us a donation if you can. Anybody who is out there who's thinking that this is cool, this is nice, this is worthwhile. If you want to give us a donation, go to trudonate.com. You can go right to trudonate, trudonate.com, and give us what you can. We're having a annual benefit this Sunday, and we're going to hopefully be raising enough money to support all the programs that we're doing. So that's it. See you in the weeks to come, everyone. Thank you.